just kidding. Sophia's like, shut up. Are we good, Janine? Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the City of Binghamton City Council Business Session, 6 p.m., 7th of June, 2023. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Present.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Present.
Councilman Burns.
Present.
Councilman Strawn. Councilman Scanlon.
Present.
And President Scringy.
Present.
It's one absent, Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Resonetti for the purposes of a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes from the May 24th, 2023 business meeting.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilwoman Resonetti, seconded by Councilman Scanlon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Councilwoman. At this time, we will move on to public hearing. City of Binghamton will hold a public hearing regarding local law 23-01, a local law amending the code of the City of Binghamton, Chapter 355, Streets and Sidewalks for regulating utility poles. Residents wishing to submit public hearing comments may do so electronically by emailing their comments prior to 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to clerk@cityofbinghamton.gov in person during the meeting. Madam, anything received electronically or by mail? Thank you, Madam. Since nothing was received electronically and there are no individuals of the populace present, Chair will entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Resonetti, seconded by Councilman Scanlon. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. This time we will set a public hearing. The City of Binghamton will hold a public hearing regarding RL 23-128, authorizing the City of Binghamton to apply and accept the entitlement block grants from HUD or the Department of Housing and Urban Development. This public hearing will take place during the June 28th, 2023 business meeting at 6 p.m. in council chambers. Residents wishing to participate in the public hearings may do so electronically by emailing their comments prior to 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to clerk@cityofbinghamton.gov or in person during the meeting. At this time, we will move toward public comment. Residents wishing to submit public comment may do so electronically by emailing their comments prior to 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to clerk@cityofbinghamton.gov or in person during the meeting. Each resident will have 5 minutes to speak, and please state whether you work or live in the City of Binghamton and your name. Madam Clerk, was there anything submitted electronically or by mail? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no electronic or mail submissions were made and no individuals were present, we will move on with the agenda. At this time, we will move on to the non-preferred agenda. Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon for the purposes of a motion in relation to local law 23-01.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Local law 2301, considered in rules Scanlon. All right. A local law amending the code of the City of Binghamton, Chapter 355, Streets and Sidewalks for regulating utility poles.
Do I have a second? Motioned by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilman Burns. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question.
The question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon.
Aye.
And President Scringy.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 absent, Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time the chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon for purposes of a motion concerning introductory ordinance 23-83.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-83. An ordinance to amend the 2023 Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Facilities budget for laboratory equipment.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question, Mr. President.
Question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent, Councilmember Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon
Aye.
and President Scringy.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon for the purposes of a motion concerning introductory ordinance 23-84.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-84. An ordinance to amend the 2023 general fund balance for Broome County library fees.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question.
Question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent, Councilmember Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon
Aye.
and President Scringy.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon for the purposes of a motion regarding introductory ordinance 23-85.
Thank you, Mr. President. An ordinance to authorizing the sale of 18 Rutherford Street to George H. Johnson and Michelle J. Johnson for $500.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question, Mr. President.
Question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
There's a seeker for that one.
There is a seeker.
Yep.
Let me move back on that. That is my fault. My apologies. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Scanlon, are you okay with
Yep,
reading
I
that?
got him. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
The following seeker motions are in reference to the legislation before us. Introductory ordinance 23-85, an ordinance authorizing the sale of 18 Rutherford Street to George H. Johnson and Michelle J. Johnson for $500.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilwoman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Councilman Scanlon.
I make a motion to declare the city council as lead agency under seeker.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Councilman Scanlon.
I make a motion to identify the proposed action as unlisted under seeker.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilman Strawn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Councilman Scanlon.
I make a motion to issue a negative declaration under seeker for the following reasons. The proposed action will not conflict with any adopted land use plan for zoning regulation nor result in a change in land use. The proposed action will not impair the character of quality of the existing community. The proposed action will not have any impact on the critical environmental area. The proposed action will not impact traffic or infrastructure energy use for water or sewer infrastructure. The proposed action will not negatively impact important historic resources, and the site was found to have no historical significance by the Commission of Agriculture and Urban Design. The proposed action will not result in an adverse impact to natural resources, erosion and flooding, or human health.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent, Councilmember Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon
Aye.
and President Scringy.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now that the seeker is passed, we'll reintroduce Councilman Scanlon, introductory ordinance 23-85.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-85, an ordinance authorizing the sale of 18 Rutherford Street to George H. Johnson and Michelle J. Johnson for $500.
Do I have a second? Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scanlon. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent, Councilmember Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Scringy.
Aye.
That's six ayes, one absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon for a seeker concerning introductory ordinance 23-86.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-86, an ordinance authorizing the sale of 49 Colfax Avenue to Omar Boone for $500.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Friedman. Councilman Scanlon.
The following seeker motions are in reference to legislation before us. Introductory ordinance 23-86, an ordinance authorizing the sale of 49 Colfax Avenue to Omar Boone for $500. I make a motion to declare city council as lead agency under seeker.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Friedman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Councilman Scanlon.
I make a motion to identify the proposed action as unlisted under seeker.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilman Strawn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Councilman Scanlon.
I make a motion to issue a negative declaration under seeker for the following reasons. The proposed action will not conflict with any adopted land use plan or zoning regulations, nor result in a change of land use. The proposed action will not impair the character or quality of the existing community. The proposed action will not have an impact on critical environmental area. The proposed action will not impact traffic or infrastructure, energy use, or water and sewer infrastructure. The proposed action will not negatively impact important historic resources. The proposed action will not result in adverse impact to natural resources, erosion, and flooding or human health.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilwoman Resonetti. Clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon.
Aye.
And President Scringy.
Aye.
That's six ayes, one absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now that the seeker has been approved, Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon again for introductory ordinance 23-86.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-86, an ordinance authorizing the sale of 49 Colfax Avenue to Omar Boone for $500.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilman Strawn. Discussion? Seeing none, is the question called? Question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon.
Aye.
And President Scringy.
Aye.
That's six ayes, one absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time the chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon concerning introductory ordinance 23-87.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introductory ordinance 23-87, an ordinance to extend permanent ordinance 18-50 for 5 years regarding active military personnel.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Scanlon, seconded by Councilman Strawn. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question, Mr. President.
Question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon.
Aye.
And President Scringy.
Aye.
That's six ayes, one absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Resonetti for the purposes of a motion concerning introductory resolution 23-43.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consideration for introductory resolution 23-43. A resolution designating the property located at 12 Edwards Street as a local historical landmark in the city of Binghamton.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Resonetti, seconded by Councilman Strawn. Discussion. Seeing none, is the question called?
Call the question, Mr. President.
The question's been called. The clerk will call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Resonetti.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilmember Friedman.
Aye.
Councilman Burns.
Aye.
Councilman Strawn.
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon.
Aye.
And President Scringy.
Aye.
That's six ayes, one absent. Riley.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Council. At this time, we will move on to communications from councilmen, and we will begin with Councilman Strawn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. This time Chair recognizes Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So real briefly, I was walking the dog the other night and I ran into the two police officers who were walking the beat, happened to be coming down my street. Captain Bidwell was there and the other officer escapes me, but I walked with her for 2 blocks and it was pretty neat to see the people coming out to talk to. It was a nice night, people on their porch stopping, and they were very engaging. I just hope that program can stay as it is now because I think it's, and I don't care what the neighborhood, good neighborhood, bad neighborhood, whatever. I think it's a good program. And I hope it continues. It was just nice to see that people engaging with the officers as opposed to, I've been a ride along before where they bash the officers. So it was nice to see. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Scanlon. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Rossetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not much to share or talk about tonight. I just urge everybody to be very careful with what we're dealing with regarding the air quality here in our area. Certainly that's kind of unprecedented for us. So stay in, take good care of yourself, stay healthy. And, you know, we are in June, which is hard to believe. June is, there's so much to celebrate from Pride Month, Juneteenth, flag, and we have a solstice coming up before our next meeting. So I just want to say to everyone to be safe, healthy, and enjoy everything that's going on out there in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, President Springy. Happy Pride Month, everyone. Woohoo. There was a couple of Pride events this past week, more to come, but I was able to attend the Pride flag raising outside of City Hall with Councilwoman Riley was also there with me. And there was also a Pride celebration on Saturday, and that was a ton of fun. And it was also necessary in the wake of, fortunately not here, but elsewhere in the United States, legislation that seeks to criminalize gay, lesbian, and trans people. And I'm happy that we don't have any of that here, but it's important to make sure we create joyous spaces because there's a lot of scary doom and gloom. So shout out to the organizers of the Pride event on Saturday. There's Pride Palooza next Saturday. And then the Saturday after that, as Councilwoman Rossetti mentioned, there is the Juneteenth celebration. It is in the 4th district, so that's exciting at Assata Shakur / Columbus Park. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Freeman. Chair recognizes Councilman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. President. South Side, we had over the weekend, Noah Farley run and Southside Field Days, and they were absolutely wonderful. I know that I saw on social media, I didn't see her there, but Councilwoman from our 3rd district, she looked like she was winning the race, if you ask me. So it went very well, and that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Just want to add a few things. I want to thank all the residents in the ward who were able to attend our community meeting. I don't want to put any addresses or geographic areas out there, but I want to thank the residents who joined us, as well as BPD, code, and zoning, and the mayor's office. Went on for a little over an hour and a half. It was actually a really good meeting. We've had a follow-up with zoning and code and the police department already on a number of issues related to the property. So I want to thank all the residents who actually came out to that, really opened up and talked about some of the issues that this property has really been dealing with for a while. In extension to this, I also want to thank Dan Merkel and our DPW and street sign crew. As an extension of some issues with this property, there was actually a stop sign that got knocked down, and the DPW was actually out there literally within 2 hours that morning, getting that sign back up. And that was really good to see. So be also very mindful of traffic with a lot of the road construction that's going on right now. Also want to thank the DPW workers who have been out collecting garbage and recycling, especially in this weather with the low air quality that Councilwoman Rosanetti had mentioned that's been going on. They've been really, really on top of that. It was also great neighborhood watch meeting last night down in the ward. I think we had a little bit over 40 residents there. So as Councilman Scanlon had mentioned, the feedback with respect to some old school things are old school and they just work, and cops walking the beat is just it's just great. It's so amazing to see residents just coming out, offering bottles of water, cup of coffee, talking about properties, even positive things while they're mowing the lawn, hanging out with their families and their friends, just pointing things out. I'll just repeat something that was discussed last night. I also want to thank Sergeant Flynn and Officer Sapinski who were there with us. It was just great Q&A, a lot of time. I also want to thank Mayor Cram for speaking there. And it was just great kind of in this post-COVID era to really be with everyone again. I've been doing these smaller community meetings in the district for a while, and it was just nice to really have a really good large bunch of people. But the feedback was just amazing. And so I want to thank everyone who was there and came down and spent time. It was a lot of fun. It's good to see everybody again. That being said, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Motion by Councilwoman Rosanetti, seconded by Councilman Scanlon. Madam Clerk, thank you. Members of the public here, thank you. Corp Council and colleagues, thank you.